Hi, our goal is to talk about deliverables. You're going to work in a group. Within the group, you're going to work as individuals, and you're going to create these documents together and edit them. The deliverables are going to combine into activity summaries, and then at the end of the semester, we're going to combine the activity summaries into a project document. So what is a deliverable?
All projects accomplish something. The something that they accomplish can be either a good or a service and is usually a combination of both. The individual items of goods or services that are accomplished are called the project deliverables. It is reasonable to say that all projects must accomplish something, although those of us who have been involved in some projects may not have felt that way at the time. If projects do not accomplish something, we have no reason for doing them. The items that we call the project accomplishments are generally referred to as the project deliverables.
Your instructor starts by picking a project. You decide to sign on to that project, or you're placed on that project. And you look at the problem statement and the due date the instructor's created. Your goal is to come up with activities to solve the problem by the due date. The activities are broken down into individual tasks. And then weekly, on the second class meeting each week, the instructor will review the tasks. Now you can change the task. There has to be a good reason for it, and you must document the task change in the work breakdown. Sometimes you do the task really quickly. It turns out to be much easier than expected, so you want to move on to another task. So coordinate with your group so you're not doing the same task as someone else. The single document that captures all this and is reviewed by the instructor, that's built throughout the entire semester, is called a work breakdown. It's associated with a group. You can see the activities 1, 2, and 3, and then underneath the activities you have descriptions. The instructor is going to look at the owner. The biggest mistake made is where you put everybody, or we, or you put two people's initials there. Sometimes the task doesn't get done over the weekend. So you illustrate that by putting in the correct percentage and changing the start date and the finish date. This has to be kept live, up to date at all times by your group. When you finish a task, in the last column on the right, you should have a link to a document. So you'll type in some words, and then underneath those words, you'll put in a link to a Google document. So I can click on the words and go straight to the document. So the deliverable is a result of a task. It's not proof that something was done. It's information so someone can replicate exactly what you did. Replicate it faster, replicate it better. So a deliverable could be anything. It could be a document, it could be videos, it could be research that was done on the internet with lots of references. It could be a demonstration that's videoed. It could be pictures, it could be lists of things. Like, let's say you worked on a purchase order, and then you would have a list of all the items in the purchase order and where you're buying it from and how much they are and what quantity, that kind of thing. Deliverables. So the next team can repeat what quicker? They can go to the next step and continue building the program that you've written. They can continue working on the circuit that you've built, make it better, troubleshoot it, mass produce it, solder it up so there's no loose wires. It could be a report, it could be research. Research in this context results in a document. It's not something you do that helps improve you. A deliverable helps improve the institution. The most important thing to document is failure. Most of the time, companies spend 50, 70, 90% of the time failing before they get it right. And if they keep repeating the same failure over and over and over again, it's because they're not creating deliverables. They're not documenting the failure, so the next team knows what to avoid. Deliverables come from the instructors, from the problem statements, from the notebook. You've got to turn them into tasks and activities. And a deliverable is not complete until the instructor reads it online in Google Drive and says it is. The biggest mistake people make writing a deliverable is they write a narrative. They say, I did this, then I did this, then I did this, then I did this, and it goes on and on and on. It has no clarity about what's important, what's trivial. It just talks about everything. That's not engineering. That's not a deliverable. The deliverables are a completely different document written for the reason of repeating failure and success quicker. So physically, what does a deliverable look like? Well, it starts off as a Google document. And in the Google document, you can have pictures, but they have to be your pictures. Something you drew, some picture you took, not something you found on the internet. And there's text. And then down at the bottom, you can use the Google Doc research tool to add footnotes and references to anything out there on the internet. Do not confuse your work with the work of other people out on the internet. That document then can link to a presentation. And in the presentation, you can mix up your pictures and pictures you found on the internet, videos you took and videos you found on the internet. But you want to try to keep the links down to very few and keep the presentation short. You need to work alone, work independently. The average person spends about 10 minutes physically doing something in space and then 30 minutes documenting it, writing about it. There's a huge discrepancy. Most people that are immature, they're in fourth grade mode. They just want to do and get it over with quick. And it doesn't result in any documentation. It can be brilliant, but nobody can follow it or repeat it. Work with a partner in your engineering lab at all times. Most of the other time, you're working alone. If you're going to work together with somebody and it's not in the lab, you better talk to your instructor, because normally you're not going to get any credit for it. It gets confused about who writes the documentation. So if you're going to work together in the engineering lab, then separate your tasks out. One person's taking pictures and video, the other person's doing things. And then take a break and both of you write in the notebook. Don't copy each other's notebooks. The whole goal is your perspective on what happened and your partner's perspective on what happened. And at the end, we're going to take all the deliverables and combine them into an activity summary. So once an activity is done, you summarize the deliverables. At the end of the semester, we might have 10 activities, and we summarize those in a project document. That's it.